Man, I can't tell you. I don't.
I love that intro too, by the way. It always gets me every time.
Well, at least yours was playing. It's like, I think my ever evolving internet situation over here is I don't get to watch the whole thing play. So I don't really know when it's finished and when we go live. So it just kind of just shows up. So
we won't name names, but just before we get into the meat of the thing, this is just for comparison's sake too. This Mr. Coffman here, right? The founder of Sub2Empire, it has 1 gigabyte. Here's my air quotes: 1 gigabyte of speed on his internet access, and I'm not sure he's quite using that bandwidth there. I have 600 megabytes, by the way, and I'm a little. It seems like I'm a little clearer for whatever reason.
Yeah,
so.
Something. I can't convince them either. I can't convince them that it's not that, like, all they see is that the connection is up. They don't see that when I have a load on it, it's a problem. But anyway, all right. So guys, I'm going to be a little delayed. You can see my lips are not following my. I can see that.
Like subtitles. We just need to put the closed captioning on there. It's all good.
It's so aggravating. Hey guys, hey, if you're joining us from YouTube, welcome to the channel. If you're joining us anywhere else, welcome to the podcast. We're knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone here. We've got
that's right.
A lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Okie doke. I don't believe we had any questions from last week, but I do want to encourage anyone that sees this or watches this, you have any questions about anything we talk about, definitely leave us some comments. I love talking about this stuff. I know Ken does too. So let's, if you got any questions about any of this stuff that we talk about, please post it in the comments. Happy to answer those questions. But today we have no guests today. We're going solo again. This is the second week in a row, and we're just going to do our normal thing. Just have
that's right. They're stuck with the 2 of us again.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. If you can stand us. You stand looking at us, then I think you'll get a lot out of it.
That's right.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about what is happening here. Oh, nope, that's not it. Sorry, another technical issue. But today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of rehabbing houses, and we're doing it primarily because it's hitting us in the face right now. We're actually in the middle of rehabbing a house, and in fact, before this podcast started, I had to calm Ken down. We had to chill him out a little bit,
yes. Because it was budget related, right?
It's budget related, yeah.
Nobody like I'm the numbers guy, and so it's like
we're quickly finding out just the different fluctuations in pricing is unreal. It's just it's like it's just all over the place, and I'm not one to I almost never go with the cheapest person. Almost never. I have just found that you end up paying more in the long run by going cheap, and so and that includes materials as well. I like to stay middle of the road. I don't do usually if we have something left over in the budget that we can do a little bit extra on a rehab, then we will. But for the most part, materials and labor wise, we like to go right down the middle. I will tell you on this one, we did hire some folks who are super, super quick and fast. So they're saving us a bunch of money in holding costs. However, they are a little bit more pricey. They're on the high end of labor charges. So, which I'm totally happy. I'm totally happy to do it just because I know that these folks are, they've really done a good job and they're jamming through this. So, so I thought maybe we'd start, maybe just going through some criteria, maybe hit the highlights on what this one's going to be about, on what this particular podcast is going to be about. And then we'll just deep dive into each one of these a little bit and just have a good old conversation.
Yeah. Can we go back to reset to the beginning too? So like,
Yep.
why would I want to do a straight flip? Like lots of real estate flipper investors do flips and all that. And to be honest, like I didn't do flips for several years, several of the past years. Like I just was focusing on other things and just wasn't really, it, and basically because the deal sucked.
Mm-hmm.
The flip deal sucked. The interest rates went up. The the cost of the money was the margins were gone from deals, and it just wasn't worth my time and effort to go and evaluate all that stuff too. But now, like this one here that Jeff's talking about too, this is a sub 2 flip, right? So we thought again, and we have like several of our students are in the middle of different flips, and so we thought we would just kind of talk about the whole flip situation in there too. So I just want to back up a second though, and go back to what I said there, which I kind of glossed over, but I think it's really important, is like, why do you want to do flips? Is it in your business model? Right? We don't talk about this a lot. Maybe we need to talk about this a little more too, but what are you trying to do as a real estate investor? How do you want to make money? Do you want to make money as a flipper? That's fine. Do you want to be buy and hold? Maybe you have both of those in your business model, which is fine too. But remember, you can only do so much and manage so many things at one time, right? So why do you want to flip? Right? That's just the question to answer. Number one, just from a business perspective, right? And for us, the answer was, well, we had to spend so much getting it rent ready. Let's just spend a little more and make it retail ready and just flip it one. So
Yep, absolutely. It's a couple of issues, like, addressing your question, like why would you flip, and like, is it in your business model? The inherent issue with flips is if it's not your business, if you're not completely set up to just continuously do flips like one after the other, if your marketing's not consistent, if you're not maybe you're using wholesalers to find these deals. We all know there's a lot of variance and a lot of variability when it comes to the acquisition side of it, but that's just one aspect of it. What happens when you actually do get the property on a contract, you do close on it. If you're not set up, if your business is not set up to do flips or consistently do flips, then you run into this issue of labor. And quite honestly, with this one, we haven't done a ton of flips over the past couple of years. Any rehab work that I've done personally has been for seller finance or rental properties. And so I've been kind of lucky enough to be able to maintain my labor, the labor pool that I have. And I am pretty well, I'm gonna say connected, but I do know a lot of people in this business that, a lot of contractors, that is. But the inherent problem is if it's not something that you're doing consistently, you tend to spend, it's somewhat chaotic, and you tend to spend more money on trying to find reliable contractors to come in and do that work for you. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm going to try and pull all of this together because I'm not being very coherent here. What I'm trying to say is if you don't have a consistent, a flipping business that is consistent and repeatable over and over and over again, you might just have a hard time doing flips. It's going to happen is going to force you to rebuild those crews every single time you get a new property under contract that you want to flip. And that can be both time consuming, problematic. It's just chaos. It's just, now we're not experiencing a ton of chaos right now, but it has been difficult to pull some people together.
But we're also pretty experienced rehabbers. Well, with real estate investing in general, but then I've done many flips, just not so much in the last few years, as you mentioned too. So our experience level factors into that too, with about how can we go back and pull the people and who do we know and all that stuff too. But your point is a very good one though. If I want to do say 2 or 3 flips a year, okay, so they're like 6 months apart, then you're exactly right. Your crew that you used on flip 1 in January is probably not going to be there in July when you're doing flip number 2 necessarily, right? Because
Right.
you can't keep those people engaged unless you have one coming on every month, like Jeff mentioned, right? You know, consistency in your inventory and your flipping inventory. They could just move from house to project with you, like, so they're like almost your own crew. I mean, that's a high volume of flip. I mean, that's, you know, you're a professional flipper at that point, pretty
Yep.
much.
Yep.
If you can keep that kind of inventory and consistency going. And for us, like, that's, if we're just being honest, that's not our primary business model. Sometimes you come across deals and they're so good, you're just gonna, it's a bad business decision not to flip it, or what, you know,
Mhm.
you know, it's just in the straight flip model or whatever. It's just a bad business decision not to take it or partner with somebody on it or do something with it, right? So, you know, and now we're seeing this, the sub 2 flips, right? The sub 2 flips, we take over the loan payments. The loan is in great shape for us to do that. There's not a lot of, we don't have to go out and get hard money. Well, we're in a position where we can finance the, you know, the rehab, the $50,000-$60,000 rehab and holding costs ourselves, you know, basically. And so we don't have to go out and get the private money to do all of that too. So that's why sub 2, like we're putting that twist on it now, right? The sub 2 flips are seeming to rear their heads now a little more, right? Or that those possibilities are becoming more and more practical. So
Right. Yeah. So I guess the first thing that we need to the first point here is that really assess your experience level. Everyone's got to start from somewhere. You know, so I would take a good evaluation of your business model. It used to be for me. I'll tell you, when I first started, when I first got into the mindset of buy and hold, after I you know, took my little detours off into other little areas of real estate, I quickly realized that, you know, that the fast money was gone just as fast as you receive it. I'm talking about wholesaling, and then also the flip. You know, the earnings off of flips, sort of the same thing. It's active income. You got to constantly be doing it. So once I finally realized that, you know, I needed a portfolio. Like, I need something that pays me consistently every single month. Um, what I decided to do once I realized that was, I would say, well, I already had these crews that were built because I was doing multiple flips at a time. But when I got into this buy and hold mode and this buy and hold model, I just decided that I was going to have a flip going at all times. I'll just have something going at all times, kind of on the back burner. I kind of had it systematized, and it worked out really, really well, until, you know, until you get to a point where maybe you know, you can't find a deal. Like, you can't find a good deal, or you can't create a good deal. And so what happens then? Now there's a break in the chain. That crew, or those crews that you had working for you, they're not going to sit around and wait for you. They've got to go out and
yeah,
they've got to find work. So
yeah, got to feed the family, man.
that is the real work with this, with rehabbing houses is, you know, do you have a consistent inventory, like what Kim was saying, and is it repeatable? Do you have systems in place where you can just repeat this over and over again? And by the way, with the buy and hold model, this is equally as true, because you're going to if you're a buy and hold investor, I don't know many. I don't know if you do. I don't know many that are buying turnkey properties.
Nope.
Most of these properties are going to need work. So um, again, you're going to need those systems in place regardless. The level of work is obviously going to be different, but yeah. So that would be I think the very first thing is evaluating, you know, evaluating where you're at, and is rehabbing houses really something that you should be concerned with? I'm talking flipping houses. Is that
Yeah,
something?
that you want to do, right?
Right, right,
Is that the model that you want?
right.
Right.
Yeah. And then of course we start diving deeper into the various aspects of the deal themselves.
Right. So now we can get to the deal. So you mentioned marketing for a second. Just go there. So how do we find those deals? Right. So that just like everything else. How do you find your buy and hold deals? You got to market, right? So this is shameless plug one during the podcast for, you know, we have a whole marketing course system there at our website, sub2empire.com. Just go and check it out. But you gotta market and get those deals. Like, wholesalers are pretty good if you're looking at straight flips, right? I mean, that's not bad as long as the wholesalers aren't greedy and will take 10 or 15,000 on their fee instead of 25. So as long as they're not to disparage the wholesalers. Sorry, now I'm disparaging the wholesalers. Like I don't. What's it? Been hanging around you too long with this the wholesaling thing there. So,
Yeah,
but
you gotta get your head on right for that.
yeah, once you find the deal, a deal's a deal though, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about, so this property comes to your wholesale, sends you, you're on wholesaler list, whatever, you see it in Facebook, wherever you're finding your leads, or if you're actively marketing specifically for flips, that's great too, right? But okay, so now you have this house, you get this property and you're just like, okay, is it a deal? Right? So is it a deal? So I got a couple rules of thumb that I look at it like when I see it come by me, whether I even waste my time evaluating on it or not too.
Yeah,
So
let's talk. Let's go back and forth. Let's see what your evaluation guidelines, or your, dare I say, your, because personally, I have a requirement of what I need to make every month in order to be able to just consider doing a flip.
well,
So
yeah. So there should be a minimum standard. So maybe let's start there.
okay.
So if I want to do a flip, right, and we want to say, like, I don't want to do a flip now because I know what's involved, right, and I don't have the monthly. My model's never been to have a monthly flip or whatever. But what I want 30,000, maybe 25, at least 25 or 30. That's net profit to me after everything's done.
Mhm.
Right? I want 25 or 30,000 for the time and trouble. Now, that's on a single family house. I will take less on condos. And don't poo-poo condos, man. Condo flips are good, in and out fast. And so you might have to take like 15, right? You might look for your profit to be like 15 on a condo or something like that. But man, you can get in and out stuff. You do a lot of the work yourself, right? Necessarily on a condo, it just kind of depends. So anyway, so I say, so that's kind of my first rule. So with that in my mind, then I kind of look to see, okay, so here's my first rule of thumb when I see something from a wholesaler. And I have to kind of qualify this a little bit too, because you have to know your local market, right? So let's just assume you know your local market. So we're in the St. Louis metropolitan area here. So I'm gonna get I see a deal come through on one. There's just one the other day that I was talking about on a coaching call yesterday. That came through, and it was $250,000. This was the wholesale price for a property in Baldwin, which is West St. Louis County, which is kind of the upper suburb area. Okay, so I can say, okay, I need at least $100,000 on the resale value. I need at least $100,000 between that wholesale price, probably more, but at least $100,000 and the after repair value price. So I need that property to sell for at least $350,000 after it's all fixed up. Or I'm not even bothering to evaluate, get the calculator out and put numbers in. I'm not even doing it if I don't see that spread.
Yep. Yeah, there's a couple of different ways that I've done it in the past. And I used to try, and my spread would be based on percentage. So I say, if we had, and it would be based upon cash on cash. So if we had X amount of dollars in cash, I would want to get a 20% return on that cash. Now that becomes, at least for me, because I have a very simple brain, but that becomes, it can be somewhat challenging when you're doing your evaluation thing, because there's all kinds of factors. There's just all kinds of, you might go sideways in your rehab, and you might, in fact, we did on this one. We've had a change order on this one where we discovered some things that we just didn't notice in our initial inspections. But I've simplified that because I just find that I just find it easier. I find it less brain trauma for me if I can simplify it. So what I do on any given house, it doesn't matter. It does not matter if it's a 5,000 square foot house or a 900 square foot house. It doesn't matter. I have to make 10K a month on each one of my properties. I have to, otherwise I don't even consider it. So that number was chosen because I know that's what it's going to take to sustain my business, pay me, pay for any marketing that we've got to do to get the next deal. I have to make minimum 10K every single month. So then it becomes a kind of a game of, okay, well, how long do you think this is going to take? And now we've got it down to a point where we know, we have different levels of rehab. We have different square footages of houses. So we can pretty much, like the one we have right now, it's 1,300, a little over 1,300 square feet. So I know that house, well, there is a little bit of a variable in there because we've got some really speedy guys in here now. So they're working a little bit faster than your normal crews probably would. But I know that house, 1,300 square feet, if it needs a total cosmetic rehab, we're talking floors, paint, fixtures, some electrical work, maybe a roof, HVAC. I know that house is going to take at least 3 months, minimum 3 months to even, before we can even consider getting it to market. So I consider that we're kind of on the same page there. You said you need 30. So it kind of levels out. It's just a different approach on how you come up with that requirement that you set for yourself before you start getting into rehabs. So mine is 10K a month. If I only have to hold a property for a month, I'm happy with 10K. But if I have to hold a property for 6 months, it's a real, I mean, that's a pretty extreme rehab for us. So if I have to hold it for 6 months, I need to make 60K on that house. So that's just how I do it. But really it's up to you kind of to decide how you want to, what you're worth and what you think the time and trouble and headache is worth, what it's worth to you. And you got to put a dollar amount on that. You got to figure that out. And it's just going to take experience. This is going to take going through the process and getting some houses rehabbed. Yeah. And then we got, if we jump into, sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. I got a couple of notes. But if we look at, I guess let's talk a little bit about actually evaluating those deals.
Yeah.
One of the larger, of course, you're going to have your rehab costs. You're going to have you have labor. You're going to have materials. You probably want to have a built-in cushion. We didn't do it on this one because this house wasn't too terrible, but I like to have, if the deal can really afford it and I don't have to be super worried about, if the margins are there, rather, I guess I should say, building in like a 20% quote slush fund. And
well, I built that in. I just didn't put it in the numbers that I sent to you.
Oh, okay. I should have known. What am I thinking?
But it wasn't 20%, 10%. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the big ones though is, I hear this often. I hear this a lot, particularly from a lot of gurus. I hear, don't worry about the cost of the money. Don't worry about the cost of the money.
Oh yeah. How you gonna fund the deal? Yeah.
I do not, especially when I got started, I can't even tell you the cost of that money, especially if it's hard money. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to take a little sidetrack here. Hard money. I hate to say this because we actually lend hard money. So we are hard money lenders, but hard money should be, unless you're just brand new, it should be one of your last sources for funding your deals. It should be, because it is so expensive that it can definitely make or break your deal. And I've been caught up in that trap before, especially early on, where, I kind of had that attitude like, hey, I've got the money. Let's just go crazy. Let's just start doing this thing. Next thing you know, you've got delays. You've got, maybe you've got materials you're waiting on, like special order stuff, or especially like in the past few years, when COVID was the hot thing, getting labor was a major problem, and getting materials was a huge issue. And if you could get the materials, then of course the prices were so insanely inflated that it affected everybody. But going back to the cost of the money thing, this is why I yet again, you cannot beat the creative financing aspect of buying out. Like you must learn this. You have to learn this because where are we sitting at on this one, Kenneth? Is it 3.75 or 3.95 or?
Yeah, 3.75 on the underlying loan. So we took so the acquisition of the property itself was just the subject to at a 3.75 rate.
Yeah.
And we just took that over. Now we're funding the rehab ourselves, right? But we can do that. And if you can't do that, then you should come to people that will fund your rehab like us. And just to just no shameless plug too. Sorry, that was a shameless plug too. But we're not we're private money lenders. All right. So we do not charge, our rates are not hard money rates. Like you said, the reason hard money is difficult to do is because it's so expensive. Like we don't charge those kind of fees for our money, but it's not bank fees either. But yeah, so it's kind of in the middle there, just to note that. But
yeah, and should we tell them the secret for? Should we tell them the secret on the rehab funds as well?
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, why not? Yeah, we use 0% interest credit cards. 0% for a year on a lot of these credit cards, and so if you really, that is really chopping at the cost of this money. I mean, we have an extremely low interest rate on the acquisition side, and we have a 3% transaction fee on the lending side, not on the lending side, but on the rehab side.
For some of it, right?
For some of it, yeah.
For some of the transactions, at most, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, all in, this house will be done. We're shooting for November 1st, and we will have owned this house for what? How long? Well, let's start from the rehab because we actually leased this back for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So rehab's 5 weeks long, I think, so far at this point.
Yeah. It was August. August 24th. So we started. Yeah, that was when she was finally out, and we could start the rehab. Yeah.
So the point is, though, with that, the cost of our money is so cheap that this one, it just really makes sense to do. If you can get money that cheap, so we're averaging 6% per annum on this. A hard money lender is going to be anywhere from, now if you go on an annual rate, they're going to be anywhere from 18 on up to 36%. And I'm talking about on an annual rate. Because a lot of them are, what they're doing is they might lend you money at 12% and a few points, but that's a 6-month loan. So you have to look at it on an annual basis. So that is really, if you went annually, that'd be 24% plus, that'd be 30% on that borrowed money on an annual basis. And that is just really expensive. Yeah. Very hard to get over doing a rehab. You got to be super quick. So the cost of the money is definitely a big deal. And I just recommend, unless you have a finely oiled machine running, I would recommend starting, really looking into private money. Private money is, it's going to save you a ton. And the good thing about private money is those terms are somewhat negotiable, because you're dealing with private people. But where hard money lenders, it's a business for them, and I totally get it. It's a business. They're generally speaking, they're very matter of fact, and there isn't much leeway at all. You're going to pay what you're going to pay. So.
And just so you know, too, we have relationships. You're talking about, let's say you need $175,000 to acquire and rehab a property, right? And you're going to sell it for $325,000 or whatever. And so that acquisition, like, we don't fund that. Like we'd fund the 50 or 60,000 on the, that you need to rehab maybe, but we don't fund the entire acquisition, all that stuff. Like it's just not our model.
Yeah.
But we do have partnerships and relationships with people that do have that model. and we can get you way better than 24% annual rate on the hard money on that too. So if you're interested in that, you just comment, put comments down, put comments wherever, and we'll follow up with you directly if you want us to connect you with our preferred lenders for fix and flips.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that. You bring up a good point. It's not in our notes, but good luck if you buy a property subject to. They're out there. I'm not going to say they don't exist, but I will tell you, good luck on finding someone who's willing to sit in second lien position.
To fund the rehab part.
To fund the rehab. So, with the subject to, if you think about it, you've got an underlying loan that's going to be first position always. They're never, that's just the way that it is. So any position thereafter is going to be subordinate to that first position. And so that's kind of where we specialize. We sit in that pocket of, hey, if you've got a good subject to deal, we're going to evaluate it, especially if we're going to lend on it. We're definitely going to underwrite it. Like it's going to be, we're going to make sure we're not going to lose any money, but we are willing to take second position. So there's not a lot of folks that do that.
No,
but I love it though, because we're protected. Our borrower's protected. Everybody wins. It's just a great spot to be in.
Yep. And also too, like, okay, maybe the margins are a little tight on that too. We can cross collateralize. In other words, if you have another property or you've got a rental property and you got room in that, like we can secure our funds against that rental property, right? And you can use the funds for your, like, doesn't matter to us. Like we're not tracking all of that. That's why we kind of sit in that little niche there. I like to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody that's a good point.
Seems to be willing to do that stuff like that. So like, well, we can.
Yeah. Yep. Sure can. So, all right. So we've talked. Go ahead.
Can I talk about, and we didn't, this will kind of be a surprise maybe for everybody too, but can we talk about evaluating, or are we going to talk more about evaluating the deal? Because sure. I just want to put a plug in and say, you need to get a good rehab calculator, right? Okay. Not to be confused with our Sub2 calculator, which is specific for Sub2 deals, but I'm talking like your fix and flip rehab. There's lots of great ones out there. We have, and I'm just going to say this, not to confuse things. I don't want to confuse things, but we have, I just actually updated this because we've been doing so many rips. We have a Sub2Empire rehab calculator too. That's not the subject to. This is just for straight rehabs and all that stuff too. And I'm going to share it real quick, if that's all right.
Sure.
Hold on one second. Okay, so here's, so here is our calculator. And if I'm being honest, like we kind of just amalgamated, a bunch of stuff into here. So you can get, hopefully it's a nice, simple, clear number that you can put in here that takes all those things into account. So if you need to get fix and flip funding, right, you're gonna put all that stuff in here, and so it's gonna calculate that for you. This just happens to have some information in it, saying the holding costs. Here's your loan, your underlying loan, if you're gonna get a loan on it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, if you're buying that subject to, you don't necessarily need to worry about that, other than maybe just figuring out what that monthly payment is as part of your holding costs. But you don't need to fill out the loan thing specifically here, unless you're getting a rehab loan forward from us or someone else. So that's just a plug. We don't have this out there. If you're watching this episode and you want this, get on the YouTube channel, put a comment in there, say, give me your information or your email, or say, I want the calculator, and I will follow up and get you this rehab. This is just strictly a rehab calculator though. All right. Just want to make sure that that's clear. But regardless of what you use, you need to get yourself a good rehab calculator. Right. So you can figure out what's going on with your deal.
Yep. I actually am going to share something as well.
Oh, good. We're in the boy. This is Friday fun day, sharing day. It's all good.
Yeah, and this is actually going to be. I don't do plugs very often, but I am going to plug this because I have used this tool for years now.
Excellent.
And it is it's weird because it doesn't get much traction. Like we don't sell.
Yeah, we don't really talk about it. Yeah.
But this tool right here, we call it Rehabber. Essentially what Rehabber is an entire construction management system. So for you folks out there who maybe this could actually cover so many bases, but this thing can be used for actually, like if you're a buy and hold investor, you can absolutely use this um, in your buy and hold business. But it works all the way up. This is actually originally started as a commercial system. So it was used in the commercial space for a lot of years, and we've adapted it to the residential side. But we call it Rehabber, and it is essentially, it is like all of your any scope of work that you can think of. There's like 45 different scopes of work in here.
Yeah.
So you just kind of, what it is a binder system. And what the system allows you to do and how we use it is, we'll go out, we'll evaluate a house. We go through it's got a property checklist. I'm sorry, a property rehab checklist. So you'll go in, you'll run through your checklist of everything that needs to be fixed, everything that needs to be repaired. And what you do is you take that checklist from there and you pull up your templates for your scopes of work. And let's say that I don't know, let's say that you needed some electrical work. Maybe you need some electrical work done in the kitchen, and you've got a stub out for a dishwasher or something like that. Well, this system will allow you to, what it does is you just create that scope of work for electrical and you put it in your binder. And you do that for every single trade, every single item on your list. And then it is a little bit of upfront work. It's going to take you, it takes me usually a couple of days, really, honestly, to get this thing organized. However, once you have it organized and put in this binder, that binder, it's a physical binder. You're going to build this binder. You're going to deliver that binder to your project, and that binder stays on that project at all times. And what that ultimately does for you is that it creates a system for your contractors to be able to just go in and look and see, okay, here, electrical, he wants a stub out in the dishwasher, so, we have our electrician come in, run that electrical, stub it out. It's ready. The dishwasher is ready to be hooked up. Now your contractor doesn't have to call you for any kind of clarification. And so the point behind this entire system is to free you up so that you can then, go off. Maybe, you've got to line up your next deal, right? If you're rehabbing houses, maybe that's what you're going to do. And this system is going to allow you to do that, because it's going to it's not going to eliminate all your phone calls and all of the kind of interactions that you have with your contractors, but it's going to drastically reduce it. And by the way, your contractors are going to love you for this. They are absolutely going to. I mean, I've had several different contractors that have used this, generals and specific and, trade specific contractors, and they absolutely love this. I've never had a bad review on this thing. So it is it's got a little bit of a price to it, but I'm telling you, it's well worth it. It will save you so many headaches and so much time. It's just it's a great product. I don't think it's something that people really appreciate, and it might just be because they don't really have their systems dialed in, and they don't have maybe they don't have the experience. But if you are an inexperienced rehabber or flipper, this thing would be perfect for you. It really would. It's called Rehabber. That was my shameless plug, and that was quite a long plug.
Shameless plug 3. But let's stay on the theme then. We already set it up there nicely with the contractors. So let's talk about dealing with the contractors. I like, as you know, my obsessive compulsiveness, or anal retentiveness, as my wife says, is such that I want everything in writing. Like all this word of mouth stuff is great, but I don't know. Jeff and I were actually talking about something else earlier. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Just like we talk about this and we talk about this, and then like I don't know what's going on because I don't see it in writing with a due date. Like, so I need to make sure that the contracts, and of course this depends on your scope of work. Like if you're just doing some minor stuff, like, okay, no big deal. What maybe
Right,
whatever.
right. That's true.
But I
Yeah.
mean, if you're spending 25,000 or $25,000 plus on your deal, and you're working with a contractor, or you're subbing it out yourself, like Jeff mentioned, then you need to make sure that the contractors know exactly the scope of work, right? Which is what the rehab is resistant times. But you need to make sure that you have that scope of work, and you need to make sure that you have a signed in writing agreement with a due date and penalties for not meeting that due date.
Yes.
Right? Because your
Yep.
contractor little sample agreement there that has got 3 bullet points that generally describes what's being done, but not very specifically. And then there's no due dates, or there's no anything there, blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to make sure that that stuff's there. You can use their stuff if you want to, but make sure that you have specific items that are going to be addressed, right? Not generals, not generalities, specific things, due dates, and penalties for not meeting the due dates.
Yes. I'm going to take it even further too. When it comes to contractors, number one, they need to be insured. Your contractors need to be insured.
Oh, of course, yes, absolutely. They need to be bonded and insured for sure.
Yep. Yep. Definitely insured. Also, which we actually include in that rehabber package, you have, depending on the scope of work that you're having done, like Ken said, if you're, if it's a small project and, it's going to be something done, if it's just an HVAC system, it takes a day to put that in. Anything that you have done, doesn't matter its scope or the size of the job being done, you got to have a lien waiver for it. Because especially if you're going to be a flipper, lien waivers is what your title company is going to require before they'll give you a title policy. And so the question might be, why do they do that? Why do they need that information? Well, because if there's any outstanding payments that need to be made, obviously, to any contractor, they want to make sure that you're not skipping out on those payments. And then that contractor comes back, and that, the work done on that house, they could actually put a lien on that house after you sell it. They just want to make sure that the title is completely clear, and that there is no chance of one of these contractors who has done work on your flip is going to come back and file a claim and put a lien on that property. So that's why they do it. So those are a couple of things, but I want to hit a little bit more on the content of your agreement with your contractor, because I think, and this goes along with not just your experience level, but it also coincides with the experience level of the contractor. So if just close your eyes and imagine this, you're a brand new flipper and you're working with a brand new contractor. I mean, everyone has to start somewhere. I get it. But if you are a brand new flipper, it might be wise of you to do your due diligence and hire a very, very good contractor up front. Because the last thing that you want to do is get involved with someone who's like Ken's saying, you don't want to get involved with someone who is not detailed enough. I'd love to give an example right now. Like, I don't know, maybe it's
without naming specific names. That's right.
Yeah. Well, let's just, since I'm getting ready to have this granite templated, I'm just going to pick on countertop people.
There you go.
So let's say you're having countertops installed, and that's a very specific trade. And let's say that, I don't know, you have a choice of edges on that countertop. You have bull nose, you have whatever, all these other different types of edges. I think a lot of people have different names for them. But let's say that that's not clearly defined, and you get something delivered that is totally not what either you saw in the inventory that they had or something like that. Well, now you've got a real problem, because if it's granite, that's going to be very expensive. That's an expensive mistake.
Yeah, can't fix that.
Somebody's going to have to fix that.
Yeah.
So it's just those things. It's those details. You got to be, you just want to be working with people. And I think I'll say, I'll use the same terminology for contractors that I use for anybody else that I deal with in business, and they've got to be great people. They've just got to be great people. Good in this line of work is just not good enough. They got to be great people. It means reliable. They show up every day. They do exactly what they say they're going to do. They're professional in their in how their contracts are written and how their work ethic and all of that good stuff. Like that alone, those people might be a little bit pricier, but that will save you so much time, headache, and money in the long run by having good people on your team.
Yeah, they're worth the 10% more.
100%.
They're worth the 10% more. Let's just say that again. Those people that do what they say they're going to do, which is about 1 in 1,000 now.
Yeah, it's getting bad.
Are worth their gold. And that goes back full circle to those guys are in such high demand. If you can't keep them engaged, you're going to lose them, right? On your rehab. So it's just like one of those catch-22 deals with the business. The better they are, the more people want them to work. And so it's hard to keep those people engaged on your crew.
It's funny too.
Later, yeah.
This is a new phenomenon that I'm discovering. It's maybe not new, but it's new to me because I don't do a ton of flips anymore. But what I'm seeing is, I've had I'll call it a Rolodex of just really good contractors for the longest time.
Yeah. Different trades, different. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then what you see is you have all like a bunch of newer contractors coming in. They recognize, there's currently, this is the end of 2024, and we still have a major issue with labor, particularly in the trades. The trades are really, really suffering right now as it relates to labor. And so what you have these opportunistic folks who may not have quite the experience that a true tradesman has. They're jumping in the business, and you're getting what you pay for. It's just they're just not good people. Their quality is garbage. Just all kinds of issues that you have. So what happens is people, a lot of flippers and rehabbers and investors they'll jump ship from that, and then now they've got now they're going to the good folks who are just getting backed up. They're jumping ship from the lesser quality contractors, and they're jumping ship and they're trying to get on the wait list for all of these really, really good ones. What ends up happening is what I've found is I've had some contractors that I've worked with for years, and I find that they're taking on so much work that they can't meet deadlines, and it's just a vicious cycle. It's like, okay, they see this opportunity because number one, this labor shortage, and number two, the quality of labor that we have in this business. They see an opportunity for more business, but they're not actually growing their business enough to be able to support any new clients. So what you end up having is you have these massively long wait times. You have shoddy work, and these are coming from what were prior to all this were excellent contractors that did great work for you. But now it's just all turned to shit because they've taken on too much work. They've not actually grown their business, and so it can be a really, really tricky business. That's just something I'm seeing as of late. Yeah, I've been severely disappointed in the past few months.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle. You're right. Yeah. It's hard to. Yeah, it's a tough market. The contractor, especially the skilled trades, are. Yeah, you're right. We're still really tough. At least here in our area, maybe not everywhere in the country, but I think that's probably true. But definitely here in our St. Louis, Midwest area, for sure.
Be a great opportunity for folks who are trustworthy, reliable, have integrity. Be a really great opportunity to get in. And the trades are just they've been decimated. Like the labor force has just been really hit hard when it comes to good tradesmen, quality tradesmen. So,
and you'll be proud of me today too, because this is an excellent. You open the door. I could get on my soapbox here about why we're not seeing people that want to work anymore. but I will let that go.
Yeah, because this is not
I'll
a
let
news
people
show.
think to themselves, I wonder why there's all kinds of people sitting around on their ass not wanting to work. I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
So I will leave that to the people to figure out as opposed to
Thank you.
that.
Thanks for that.
That's all good stuff. One other thing too, you mentioned lien waiver is so important to get all that stuff done when you're finished with either you imagine the subcontractor or the general contractor. The general contractor should get lien waivers if he's subbing stuff out. He or she subbing stuff out too as well. But also here in Missouri, right? Don't forget about the notice of intended sale, the NOIS, where you can like you're officially the purpose of that. That's actually a law here in Missouri. The purpose of that is to give notice to anybody that might have an interest in that property, especially if you're renovating it, actually anything over $600, work on a property, renovating it, it's giving notice that you're intending to sell that property, and they better make good with any claims that they have before it's sold. That's the purpose of the NOIS. So
Yep. Yeah. What else do we want to chat about as far as rehabs go?
I think that's probably key. I think we kind of covered just in a general way. Like we didn't. Well, the purpose wasn't to take a deep dive into each individual specific area, which we can. Like each one of those things is its own whole episode if we really want to get in there. Like, I mean, just evaluating deals. Maybe we can do that. If people want to see that, maybe you need to tell us. Like Jeff mentioned earlier, put in the comments and say, yeah, hey, can you go over like evaluate some of the deals or whatever? Like what are we looking at here? What are we getting? Should I waste my time on this too? Like we can take a deeper dive into all that as well. We can talk about sub two. How do you figure out a sub two deal in the calculator? Like, I just briefly mentioned earlier and all that. So let us know if that's what you want to do. Otherwise we'll continue on with different topics. We're just trying to find topics that we get questions from, or we have guests on, like we had our accountant on and, the prop stream demo and all those sorts of things. We get questions about that all the time. So we're trying to hit all those major questions we get from people a lot as we go through our podcast episodes. So let us know. Yeah.
Okay. I don't really have anything else. This is short and sweet. And, I will say this in closing. I will say I personally love the whole process of rehabbing a house. I do love it. Like it's, if that were going to be my business model from here on out, I would be happy with it. I just like the problem with it is it's very active income for me. And I got too many things I want to do, but I do love the entire process. And I would never discourage anyone from going down that road. There's a lot of people out there that have zero business doing rehabs. Like they have no business whatsoever, and they'll probably never be very good at it. But, if you enjoy the creative side of doing rehabs, and like I like watching the transformation. I definitely like swinging hammers. I love that type of work. So I don't want to discourage anyone from doing rehabs. And I think it's a great business to get into. I would say that just like anything else, if you are doing rehabs and just rehabs, I think you would be better served to find other sources of income. Just because, just like anything else, if you're a one-trick pony and you are doing, if you're self-employed and you're doing just one thing, there's going to come a point in any one thing where there's going to be a lull, and I don't care how good of a marketer you are. I don't care, about your character. We all hit that. We all hit that at some point. We all hit this spot where, if we're focused just on the one thing, it's like investing, right? You diversify, and that's the first rule of investing. You diversify. You do the same thing with your income if you're self-employed.
Yeah. So true for real estate, right? Diversifying the difference. What you said, Jeff, if I could just dovetail with that, it's perfect because the rehabbing, like Jeff and I mentioned, we went away from rehabbing stuff just because the deals weren't there. I mean, interest rates through the roof, inflation, prices for everything through the roof. You just no margins, couldn't make it. It wasn't worth our time even wasting to look at deals anymore for quite a while there. That's changed now, but it took what, 4 years? We're 4 years, almost 5. We're almost 5 years later, right? From from COVID, right? So if you're just the one trick pony, as Jeff mentioned too, what's the next COVID?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
What's the next chaos that's going to be unleashed upon us that could potentially, especially if you're just doing rehabs, impact that, right? The price of goods, the ability to do labor, the ability to get anything, the ability to even find deals, right? So that's what we're saying. That's why we're saying diversified, not only within real estate, but just all your different cash flows. And so
Yep.
that's my favorite. That's another podcast thing we need to talk about,
Yep.
diversifying your income streams. But yes, yep.
But always remember this. It does not matter in our world, because even given what you said, yes, we had this major, we had interest rates through the roof, all this stuff, but we still had, which is an anomaly and so weird to me, we still had record low levels of inventory.
Yep.
You know, it's just we have this this issue in this country, and still to this day, of in most markets anyway, of this record low inventory. Inventories are still low. I mean, they're not as low as they were just a couple of years ago, but they're still really low. So it might warrant that you go out and evaluate your business model. If you're doing rehabs, you know, it might be that you know, your rehabs consist more of the buy and hold model. But I will say this: it does not matter what. It doesn't matter if you're a buy and hold investor. It doesn't matter if you are a rehab or flipper. It doesn't even matter if you're a wholesaler. You must understand creative finance. I mean, and it doesn't matter what type of market it is. It doesn't matter if it's up or down. Creative finance is, and has been, at least for me, it has been a godsend, because the money that I'm going to say, I'm just going to kind of touch again. We go back to the cheap money thing. You know, 3.75%, that's free money. I look at that as free money. That's basically free money, is what that
Almost
is.
free, but yes, yeah.
I think anything under 6% is basically free money. But so yeah, you got to learn this creative finance thing. You really do. It's particularly how to do a subject to deal from start to finish would, I mean, it'd do wonders for your business. It really would.
Well, it's a good thing they're watching the podcast powered by Sub2Empire, because there's a couple of guys that can probably help them out with that.
Yep. All right, guys, I'm going to call it. You got anything else you want to talk about?
Nope. We will see you next week.